Calls for an uprising are growing louder yet again in Cairo. That's after Egypt's Supreme Constitutional Court dissolved the country's newly elected parliament and upheld the right of Mubarak's last prime minister to continue running for president. We're now joined live from Cairo by our correspondent Paula Slayer to get more details on the surprise turnaround. Paula, so did the people of Cairo wake up in a different Egypt today? What happened?
Well, certainly the mood here in Cairo is volatile. Left-wing activists as well as liberals, the youth, secular Egyptians and many in the Muslim Brotherhood are outraged. Earlier there were demonstrations in front of the Constitutional Court, and now as we speak crowds are starting to gather in Tahrir Square. The outrage is really because many Egyptians feel that what has developed here is a carefully maneuvered plan by the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces, SCAF, to remain in power. We're looking at a decision that was announced yesterday, just 2 days before an important presidential runoff. And according to that decision, the Islamist-dominated parliament has been dissolved. In addition to that, Ahmed Shafiq, who is backed by the army and was also a prime minister in the Mubarak era, has been given the green light to remain in the presidential race. Now, the ruling does take away the Muslim Brotherhood's strong base. It also boosts Shafiq in this important race. And already the Muslim Brotherhood has been facing increasing opposition, not only from the military and from many in the political spectrum, but also from some of its own supporters who criticize it for not doing enough while it did have the parliament within its hands. The decision also reverts legislative authority back to the ruling military, and the military already holds executive authority in this country until a new president is elected. So you have this very worrying situation where a president will be elected in the absence of a constitution and also in the absence of a parliament. So at this stage, there are more questions than answers. There is chaos, there is confusion, and there certainly is a lot of anger on the streets of Egypt.
Well, indeed, yes. What has been the reaction to the news so far as you can gather?
Well, the official line from the Muslim Brotherhood is to respect the decision of the court. We heard as much from their candidate, Dr. Mohammed Morsi, although he did warn that there could be more dangerous consequences. And he did say, in fact, that if there were any kind of mishaps in the elections, then he would support people going back to the streets. There have, however, been leading voices within the Muslim Brotherhood that have denounced the decision of the court. And the phrase being used is that this is a fully fledged coup. And we're hearing that kind of criticism from across the political spectrum. On Wednesday, the Justice Ministry decreed that the military police and the intelligence services have the right to arrest and detain civilians. And that, in addition, has sent out alarm bells to many. It seems as if the emergency law that was only recently lifted could very well be reintroduced. So you have these political developments that are causing people like Mohammed al-Baradei, who is the former head of the United Nations Atomic Energy Agency, to call on the military and the court to postpone the elections that were scheduled to get underway tomorrow. The concern is that these elections will be overshadowed by violence. The concern is also that the country will slide back into dictatorial rule, and the other concern is that whichever candidate is elected as president will have powers that at this stage seemingly are unlimited, with some analysts here actually saying that those powers could extend beyond the powers of traditional dictators.
Okay, RT correspondent Paula Slayer, thanks for that. Well, Cairo-based activist Sameh Fawzi believes with the Muslim Brotherhood now being deprived of its official tool of influence, it could be left with no choice but to change its political strategy.
The Muslim Brotherhood and the other Islamic forces looking into the situation from a very worrying position. They think that what's happening today after dissolving the parliament, which is they have the overwhelming majority inside it, maybe paving the way for getting less in the upcoming election, which will be a few months later. And they think that if Shafiq comes to power, and this is likely actually an Egyptian situation right now, maybe he will crack down on them, or they face the same very restrictive atmosphere they experienced during Mubarak regime. Elements of the old regime regrouping themselves in a new political party, as we heard right now, and they will compete in the upcoming elections. The political map will change definitely, and the Islamists will decide not to waste their time or their efforts in resisting Shafiq, but to prepare themselves for the parliamentary election.